risky some of those pieces are. Toler is very, very good at positioning and making sure that those pieces are in the right place at the right time. So let's get this top 8 match started in our top cut of the Knoxville Regional Championships between Toler and Averi. Toler has the Golden Go and the Incineroar, and Averi is going to kick things off with the Incineroar of her own and the Porygon 2.
Yeah, I guess feeling very familiar with Incineroar on both sides of the field here. I think one thing to remember, that Eviolite held item very important for the Porygon 2. You know, one of the advantages of it not being a fully evolved Pokemon is you get a huge boost to defensive stats thanks to that Eviolite. Really don't want that one getting knocked off by this Incineroar. I think also fun to note is this Golden Go. We were talking about it a little bit before. I think could be crucial in this matchup. We see, once again, Averi using the core Pokemon that we saw the last time that Averi was on stream, where I don't think we saw the other 2 Pokemon at all. So, you know, if it's going to be the same sort of strategy again, Golden Go's pretty good against a lot of the, or pretty good into a lot of these Pokemon.
Yeah, but that's why you want to preserve it for later. Don't want it to get caught out, especially by a Flare Blitz that could be on the other side. So Ogerpon feels like a great switch in to have to just get even a little bit of resistance towards that fire type damage if that's what comes through. But it's the Incineroar that's going to get the Terrestrialization to kick off this game. That is going to be the Ghost Terra. Nice defensive type here, especially if you're expecting a fake out.
Yeah, definitely avoids any fake outs, although kind of creates a new weakness to knock off, but we don't have to worry about that now. The parting shot going to reduce the stats of Porygon 2, you know, a Pokemon that has become increasingly offensively threatening in this format.
Yeah, Porygon 2 is super interesting because this is, once again, the set that has the Terra Poison and the Terra Blast. So you have to pay attention to what stats you're actually dropping, as the knockoff goes in the Ogerpon. Really nice choice here for Toler to bring that in instead of the Golden Go, because you don't have an item that you can knock off on the Ogerpon, so it's doing very minimal damage.
Yeah, I mean, Golden Go kind of just pivoting to get back out in the field. Now still in the same situation as in the last turn, right, where it's got to worry about getting knocked off again, but not too bad. The Terrestrialization by Incineroar looking pretty good with the Ogerpon across the field. Well, it has to worry about perhaps later getting dealt with by the knockoff of the Incineroar. The more immediate threat of an IV Cudgel looking pretty good, even though at the time that the Ogerpon wasn't on the field yet.
I'd be a little nervous, too, about what this Golden Go has. It does have Shadow Ball, so might want to be a little concerned, but this Incineroar and Trick Room might be a little slower.
Yeah, likely, and yeah, it's a little scary trying to set up in front of it. But on the flip side, you know, like that Porygon 2 can't really do anything to it. Neither can the Amoonguss that, you know, likely Toler's assuming is in the back, and we see it entering battle now.
Yeah, an Amoonguss, what a nice Pokemon to have in front of it. That Wellspring Ogerpon, you can use the Follow Me, so on the next couple of turns, you will have that Spore immunity, but it's another parting shot. Averi's doing a great job of being able to rotate around these Pokemon to get the right pieces in.
Yeah, I don't know if Toler's too upset about that, though, right? Where I think if I'm on Toler's side of the field, I'm looking to get a bunch of nasty plots up and then start wailing away at this Golden Go, and I'm not seeing like a super clear way to deal with this Ogerpon quickly. And you know, even though Golden Go's weak to the attacks potentially of the Incineroar and the Ting-Lu, can just keep nasty plotting, right, with the Follow Me right next to it to protect it and keep it safe.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. Even though Amoonguss has a resist to that Golden Go's Make It Rain, if you get a +4 on the board, what are you going to do against that? We have seen sometimes like Golden Go with the +4 plus the Metal Coat. You could even put like a Terra on it, but this is going to be the Terra Fairy. It still does so much damage that Amoonguss might just get knocked out.
Yeah, no, you know, the Incineroar dropped its resistance to that Make It Rain by Terrestrializing, so kind of a fun interaction with Incineroar's Terrestrialization. This team, it seems kind of just switches which Pokemon it's weak and strong against back and forth.
Ooh, you see the Pollen Puff, so not even going to try to go for something like the Spore. Neither of these Pokemon would even take that anyway, but this Follow Me is going to redirect away the Pollen Puff as well as this Stomping Tantrum, and Golden Go is going to be going for another Nasty Plot that is now +4 for this Golden Go.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, you know, sort of like thematically appropriate to be a little bit greedy with Golden Go, right? Wealth-loving Pokemon, but, I mean, still looks pretty safe, right? Where that Pollen Puff damage was significant, but I think it's Ogerpon's probably just sturdy enough they can protect Golden Go for one more turn, and, you know, the Make It Rains are going to be really scary after those boosts.
Yeah, I don't know how many Pokemon could actually resist this. I mean, you've got the Assault Vest on the Ting-Lu, so it should be able to help out with some of that damage mitigation, especially when you also have the ability to also drop special attack, but this Ogerpon has kind of now done its job. You were able to keep the Golden Ghost safe from taking any damage, and now you're going to bring in the Incineroar to drop the attacks out of this Ting-Lu. That might feel really good to allow this Golden Go to just kind of hang in there. But you still have to stall out these turns of Trick Room, so the Golden Go will go for the Protect to try to stall that out.
Yeah, an alternate means of keeping it safe. I think the nice thing with the Ogerpon, too, since it's sort of baited out the attack from the Amoonguss, Incineroar doesn't care about that, right? Not really any threat of a Spore coming in.
Nope, and the Protect, too, is going to help keep that Golden Ghost safe from the Snarl. There's still one more turn of Trick Room, though, so while you were able to get through with the Protect this time around, it's nice that the Incineroar is pivoted in here for the fake out. Yeah,
get the fake out pressure, and one important difference between the Incineroars is the Terra type. No safety goggles on this Incineroar, but it does have the Grass Terra type, so there's the option of gaining a Spore immunity that way, although I guess that there's not enough pressure quite yet to have to do something so drastic.
But I think it might be a little telegraphed here that Toler could go for a fake out into the Ting-Lu, just go for a make it rain, and so you have to start thinking about a couple of turns ahead. When the Trick Room ends, what do you want to have in to be able to take some of this damage and also reset potentially the Trick Room for yourself? The Incineroar comes in to get the Intimidate drop, but it's time to go for the goal. You've got the Terastallization here on Toler's end, and that will be that Grass Terra, as you called out, will be such a nice defensive typing against the Amoonguss.
Yeah, this way, it probably gives you the option of faking out the other slot. Doesn't really matter what Amoonguss does anymore, and it's going to protect itself, realizing that acting this turn is futile.
Yeah, absolutely, but still, a fake out into the Ghost Terra, as we were expecting that to be the Ting-Lu, and the Make It Rain. Okay, the Amoonguss gets to keep itself safe here, and you get to bypass at least a +4, but the Incineroar does not take that at all, especially knowing that it is not resistant anymore. So one-hit knockout, and Golden Go is still at +3.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty scary, too, right? There's two Pokemon on this team that really can't do anything to Golden Go, and one of them just got knocked out without ever being able to attack, right? Looking very good on Toler's side of the field. The good news for Averi is now it's only 3 levels of boosted special attack, but that's still a lot with both the Incineroar and Ogerpon still healthy enough to give it some help.
Yeah, and you can bring the Ting-Lu in here, but everything at this point is going to be naturally slower than what Toler has on the other side. So maybe if you try to switch in the Porygon 2, you can try to get the Trick Room back up, but Ting-Lu does still have that Assault Vest and a lot of HP left in the tank to go for something like the Snarl as well.
Yeah, I think the scary thing here, too, is like, well, this is 2 Pokemon that are still not threatening Golden Go, right? So, I mean, you go for another Nasty Plot, you make it rain, every option just feels so safe right now.
It really does, and Toler can even just kind of read a potential Trick Room coming through, go for a switch just to set up for the latter part of this game, but this is going to be a very, very critical turn. How much damage can this Golden Go actually get done? We see the Amoonguss switch off the field in favor of the Ting-Lu, so its Vessel of Ruin ability will drop some of that special attack output, but it's just a Nasty Plot, no damage, so Toler is now going to be at +5 with that Golden Go, and the Parting Shot too just helps to keep that Ting-Lu in check once again.
Yeah, that's a great Parting Shot. Again, Toler just has a wealth of great options there, where the Parting Shot is very appealing. Like, at some point, you'd like to knock off the Eviolite from the Porygon 2, but I mean, I guess with enough Nasty Plot boost, it just doesn't matter. Ogerpon safely getting back into the battle, perhaps going to have the opportunity to pull one more attack away from this Ting-Lu, or you could just switch Incineroar back in, get another Intimidate down, and then maybe you just don't mind if it gets a swing away at the Golden Go. Toler's just looked great here, and this Golden Go is a huge problem.
It's a huge problem, especially because neither Ting-Lu nor the Porygon 2 can protect either, and they only have single target attacks. So it seems like a very safe follow me, potentially, from the Ogerpon, and then just, yeah, go for it. You try to get the double KO with the Make It Rain.
And the Terra Blast coming in, that's going to do a decent bit of damage, but it just misses the knockout.
Wow, so you get the Snarl down. That is a nice little bit of spread damage. More importantly, it's going to drop that Golden Go from +5 to +4. So whether or not that's going to be enough, though, we're about to find out. As the Make It Rain is able to hit into both. Both are very tanky, though, able to hold on through that attack, but you can see how even just dropping with the Snarl by 1 was able to allow this Porygon 2 to hang on.
Yeah, it's another one of these situations, too, where it's like, okay, well, now what, right? Where Zinner's going to come out here, most likely will use a fake out on this Ting Lu, allowing Golden Go to hit another Make It Rain, and then even with losing a level of special attack, right, I don't know if either of these Pokemon are going to be able to survive that.
I also wonder here if you just go for the fake out onto... You could also go for the fake out maybe onto the Porygon 2. Actually, I guess I don't really know if you care about the recover at all.
Yeah, I mean, you might get it anyway, and even if it does, like, well, great, you've survived, but how are you going to knock out the Golden Go?
So
I get it. It's like, Toler has so many great options, it's almost hard to play his side of the field.
Yeah, it is definitely tough. Golden Go is now at +3 as we do see the Amoonguss now take the Ting Lu's place. But the fake out is into the Amoonguss, so you take a little bit of Rocky Helmet recoil here. We saw the Porygon 2 was also going to be trying to target down the Incineroar with the Ice Beam, but it's still gonna just sit there, take it, eat its berry, have a snack, maybe have a little bit of a cat nap as Golden Go once again gets a chance to make it rain.
Oh, yeah, picks up the knockout on both Pokemon.
Wow.
These nasty plots really paying off. And Golden Go's had quite a scheme that's been plotting for quite a while now, and its plans have come into fruition here, taking over this game.
One could say it was a nasty plot.
Yeah, I mean, nasty for one side for sure. Ting Lu coming out the field now, going to reduce the damage to this Golden Go, but it's run out of friends to protect.
Yeah, it sadly cannot protect itself. So, yeah, you can see the stoppage here. I'm very curious to see how much this would even do, right? But we don't even get a chance to see that. The Golden Go is going to keep itself safe. Toler wants to play this with a clinical endgame, not give himself any room to lose from here. And with that, miss into the protect, you get the parting shot, and now you're definitely safe.
If you thought he was safe before, wait until you see this turn. It does reveal some sort of critical information. I think if I'm Toler, I might have tried to clean that one up without revealing the final Pokemon, because I do think this is sort of interesting. It's the Urshifu coming out, so it's at least a nice bit of information for Averi, but I think that whole game, it's just like Golden Go and those two Pokemon supporting it was like the whole core of the strategy. Well, that actually is a decent bit of damage, though.
It is, but that was also at like -1, so something else really important, I think, for Toler to keep for those calculations for that game number 2. But with that final Make It Rain, Toler seals up that game number 1, and we look forward to this second game in the set. Can Averi make any adjustments here to try to get back into this series?
Yeah, I mean, I think, the key there certainly is like, okay, well, we've seen what can happen. But yeah, I mean, there just aren't like a whole lot of great options for dealing with that Golden Go. I think the obvious one that might come to battle now is that Flutter Mane. Has Shadow Ball, and worst case scenario, it also has Perish Song, right? So maybe like, all right, yeah, enough of your boosting, get out of the field. But yeah, I mean, I think the cost of taking that would still be pretty high. This Golden Go looks like a tough matchup.
It does. It looks really, really tough, especially when Toler was able to protect it so well for it to just continue to get those nasty plot boosts. Once you start to run away with things, like, I mean, look at that. Just a one-hit knockout onto the Incineroar. I don't even think you needed the +4 to even be able to get that knockout. With that terrestrialization, it might have even just been +2.
Yeah, likely. And, I think, if you're hoping for a 3-game set, one thing to be excited about, I think, a little bit is, we saw the last time that Averi was on stream, the first game went pretty bad, right? And we still had like a really long, really close set. So just showing some really good ability to adapt here. And but that skill's going to be tested. I think this is a very difficult matchup to adapt to.
Well, I wonder if there's any world you would switch things up to be a little bit faster. Like, the Trick Room is super nice, right? Because you have a lot of slow pieces like the Ting Lu, the Amoonguss that would love to operate under Trick Room. But is there a world where you're able to use the Flutter Mane here with the choice specs to try to maybe lock up a game in a different way? There's also Perish Song in that Flutter Mane. It might cause Toler to have to think twice about a couple of things.
Yeah, I think you have to bring the Flutter Mane, but I think protecting it's going to be a little bit tricky, right? Where I think, if nothing else, I mean, even the Flutter Mane threatening more damage onto Incineroar and Ogerpon would have made things a little bit more difficult for Toler, but that core of 3 Pokemon just seems so difficult to break from Averi's side. I think one thing that's going to be very tricky is this Flutter Mane has the Fairy Terra type. It can't shed its weakness to make it rain, right? And I think getting anything done without just getting bonked is going to be really difficult, but I think you probably still have to do it, right? I just don't know how that combination of Pokemon is going to ever stop this Golden Go. And Como, the 6th Pokemon, doesn't have any real way of attacking it either.
Doesn't have a way of attacking it, but it does have that Terra Steel, so maybe another defensive typing you could potentially lean into, but remains to be seen because it's just A little bit of a run back here for Averi, leading with a Porygon 2 in the Incineroar, and for Toler, it's the Golden Go in the Incineroar.
Yeah, so I guess the things you could do differently on every side of the field. Incineroar could be helpful here, right? We're threatening the fire-type damage onto the Golden Go a little more aggressively this time, maybe. At least getting some damage down. It wouldn't require almost any chip in order to at least get Golden Go in range where Ting-Lu could finish it off later. But, yeah, I think it just very important not to give Golden Go the free turns they got the first game, where just way too easy for Toler last time.
Yeah, I mean, I think in this situation, too, you can see why Averi is considering that. You just try to go for a little bit more damage. It's just going to be a protect on the Golden Go, so very smart to not go for the Flare Blitz in this case. But knowing that the Incineroar is going to be faster, you get a nice fake out onto Incineroar on Toler's side, which means that it's not just going to be an easy switch into the Ogerpon this time around, like we saw from that game number 1.
Yeah, so a much better spot this time, right? We're very free Trick Room, and even though I feel like the Trick Room isn't like hugely impactful in this game, we'll switch the speed order so that Incineroar is slower / faster than the Golden Go. Could use either a Flare Blitz or a knockoff to do some damage now, and I think it's in a better spot where we see Averi considering the Poison Terastallization. I think there's maybe some good lines of play there, right? Where, again, if to play like last games to try to get the Ogerpon in, getting a Terra Blast into it would be huge.
Well, yeah, I mean, this feels good, though, too. Toler's actually going to change things up for the second game. You've got the Tornadus now that's going to take that Golden Go's place. As the Terra, that is going to be the Porygon 2 that's going to get that Poison Terra type, meaning that Terra Blast is going to be a nice double up into this Tornadus. What a big play to make as well, because you could see that Averi was also covering for that Terra Fairy, like you were saying. So whether it was going to be the Terra Blast that gets it, or even just the double up, Tornadus takes a lot of damage from that, and we get a chance to see the knockoff as well, the knockoff the Rocky Helmet.
Yeah, I really like that play there. We're pretty good for almost all options. We get positive damage trade, things looking a lot better. The parting shot going to come down again on the Porygon 2. I guess, there's not much point in parting shotting the Incineroar, who would happily just trade those, but funny to be living in a world where you got to be a little careful with Porygon 2's offense.
Yeah, you really do. So got to keep it in check just a little bit. But now that we see the Ogerpon now taking that Incineroar's place, this is still one of the reasons why this Hair Poison is so good. Ogerpon still has the ability to Terastallize in this matchup, so you could Terastallize to get that special defense increase, but you still have to worry about this Terra Blast otherwise.
Yeah, and I think, still a pretty nice situation for Averi. Toler doing a nice job of stalling this Trick Room out, but Incineroar now probably in a position where it's going to want to use a parting shot. Porygon 2's had its stats reduced. Averi have to play a little bit more slowly, giving Toler some time to get rid of this Trick Room. I want to know, too, I'm curious if he intentionally revealed Urshifu last game, knowing he wasn't going to pick it in game 2, kind of provide some false information.
Maybe just a little bit, because you now have an idea of what Toler's 4 are for this game. Tornadus is going to be kept in the back for maybe a Tailwind at the end of these Trick Room turns, but Incineroar helping to just drop the attack stat once again. I love this play, because you see the Amoonguss as well, just going to be a nice defensive pivot in, as Toler is going to go for the Terastallization onto the Ogerpon.
Yeah, so another one, much like the Incineroar last game, where it's an interesting Terastallization because it changes its matchup with a bunch of different Pokemon, right? The special defense boost will be liked, and it helps it against Porygon, but does make it much worse against Amoonguss, who's now able to Spore it.
That's very, very true. With the parting shot as well, that's going to be basically an intimidated Ogerpon. And so the Ivy Cudgel, it's offset a little bit because you did just get that extra boost thanks to the Terastallization to the water type. But you're still going to have to take some amounts of Ivy Cudgel damage. That Porygon 2 with Eviolite does feel good for that reason.
Yeah, lots of pivoting for both sides, getting the attack boost at the download, which actually pretty good in this matchup. Again, things I wouldn't have expected to say about Porygon 2.
Yeah, unironically, yes. Like, one of the things about the Porygon 2 that makes it so interesting with the Terra Blast option is a lot of people forget that Terra Blast can be either physical or special, depending on whatever attack or whatever stat you have is higher. So, gotta be careful of that. Maybe special defense boost is not so handy right now.
Yeah, I mean, attack's actually pretty good on Porygon. In this case, it no longer can hit Ogerpon super effectively, but ordinarily you want the attack boost in that situation, and no Flutter Mane to worry about in this game, but it's better against that too.
Yeah, that's very true. Just looking at the physical defenses of a Flutter Mane, but it's going to be another pivot. gonna be a long game like this. I'm already, I'm like, buckle up, everybody. It is gonna be a long one.
Probably not too much will happen by the time it's done.
So I want then to kind of consider what is the end game for both of them, right? Because obviously neither of them are particularly happy with their position on the board at the moment. So let's talk through that. What's the win condition for each?
Yeah, well, I think Averi maybe is a little bit happier after that turn, right? Where I think Golden Go is still probably the Pokemon that both trainers are thinking about the most. Toler trying to find some way to set it up, and Averi trying to prevent that from happening while whittling down Toler's team, and maybe trying to get a few spores off with the Amoonguss. Getting Tinglu out against both Incineroar and Golden Go is pretty big. And not only can it potentially hit both these Pokemon with super effective attacks, but also don't have to worry immediately about Intimidate. Do have to worry about a parting shot, which seems relatively likely here. But now that neither of the Pokemon in the back are immune to Spore, or like a double up of an attack and a Spore in one slot, you're going to get something at least.
Well, this is the last turn of Trick Room, so Toler's going to send back out that Tornadus and protect the Golden Go, really hoping that this isn't something that gets punished, so you can go for the Tailwind and, of course, the Make It Rain or something on the next turn. But it's a Spore into that slot. Nice catch for the switch-in, as a Stomping Tantrum, sadly, is not going to connect onto the Golden Go, but Averi spots some valuable time here, putting that Tornadus to sleep.
Yeah, I kind of like that, right? Where Tornadus, no longer able to get that Tailwind, although you don't really need it with how slow the Pokemon that Averi brought. And Toler probably realizing, okay, well, I have to take the Spore. Like, Tornadus doesn't really matter. It's the other three Pokemon that key in the matchup. But again, now what? Where with Golden Go now, like, either you can take an attack from the Tinglu, which you don't want to do, or risk switching out and maybe having that Pokemon get Spored with an aggressive read. Well,
something else that I kind of didn't even consider is that this Tornadus is Rain Dance. So, well, yes, maybe the Tailwind is not as impactful, and you still have to prepare for something like the Porygon 2 for the Trick Room. You could, theoretically, at the end of the game, set up like a Rain Dance for your Ogerpon and just kind of run away with the game that way, but Tornadus is just going to get the heck out of there. It's going to be the Incineroar now to drop the attack of that Tinglu.
Yeah, I mean, I think going for a Spore in that plot also is something that Averi could have considered, where they're pretty clear if Tornadus doesn't, it would just hang out. So be excited to see what happens. Instead, this Stomping Tantrum coming out first, doing pretty good damage to the Golden Go.
That is a pretty good amount of damage there. Amoonguss did try to catch a different Pokemon in that slot, but the Good as Gold ability is going to keep that Golden Go nice and awake. And it's got the Nasty Plot as well. So scheming is still on the cards.
Yeah, I mean, critically, we've mentioned the Metal Coat from Golden Go a few times, not leftovers, so it might be preferred in this slower grinding game. So every hit point of damage matters. At this point, it'd still take 2 more Stomping Tantrums than Golden Go, which very possible if the Pokemon is sturdy as this Tinglu. But I think ideally you try to get Incineroar in, maybe slow this down, kind of mitigate how much damage you're taking while you try to get going and shed the attack drop.
Averi's really slowing things down as well, because you're seeing another pivot in of the Incineroar, but you're more importantly going to be seeing a Spore into that Incineroar slot on Toler's side. There's no switch either at the moment, so you get this Nasty Plot off, but the Parting Shot is going to go first because we're outside of Trick Room. So is it going to be something like the Ogerpon that comes in? It could also very well be this Tornadus that's already asleep, so a very, very nice Parting Shot pivot here.
Yeah, I think you have to pick Tornadus, right? It's just too likely that it was Spore. I mean, Amoonguss can't really do too much else. And yeah, we do see the Spore coming down. Avoided by Tornadus. So hey, it hasn't really contributed too much of this battle other than snoozing, but the snoozing's important. Those parting shots from Incineroar are really important to keep controlling these Pokemon, keeping Golden Go as safe as you can. And I guess that's just the cost of Terastallizing Ogerpon, is Tornadus is going to help out a little bit here.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think like Tornadus technically took its mandatory turn of sleep when it got Spored in the Trick Room, because it wasn't able to move at the end of that first turn. I think honestly, it's been a couple of turns now. So actually, we're just gonna ignore that until we see the Tornadus wake back up. But another switch, another day in the office here for the Incineroar.
Yeah, I mean, we'll probably keep seeing these pivoting, but I mean, the pivoting has led to something for Toler, right? There is a bunch of special attack levels now on this Golden Go, or they could just chomping at the bit to use.
It definitely is, but we haven't seen this Incineroar move yet. The Golden Go is just going to go for the Make It Rain, though, hoping it's enough to knock out the Incineroar this time around. Those boosts are not enough. The Vessel of Ruin really helping out there, as the knockoff is going to go ahead and get that Metal Coat out out of the pockets of this Golden Go, but it still did a considerable chunk to both of these Pokemon.
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot of damage. I mean, Ting-Lu getting in there, at least reducing the damage a little bit, but even with the Metal Coat gone and now only 3 levels of increased special attack, that Make It Rain is looking pretty scary. And yeah, I mean, we're in a situation again now, right, where if Golden Go can attack once or twice more safely, it might just be too much damage to come back from.
Oh, you can even see, though, like, that Golden Go's still at +3. So even +4 just wasn't enough to be able to knock out that Incineroar. So look at how well those resists are paying off. Another Make It Rain, though, at +3 will be plenty to get this Incineroar off the field. And so Golden Go gets a chance to hold on to +2, but this Ting-Lu might be able to finish it off.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to have to take this Flare Blitz first. Let's see how much damage this does.
That's going to be plenty. Only a sliver of HP left for that Ting-Lu. And with 2 KOs, Toler can taste the victory and the movement onto the top 4. The Porygon 2 and the Amoonguss are going to be the final 2 Pokemon for Averi in this game number 2, hoping to be able to claw back into this. But Porygon 2 has a lot of work to put in right now, and that Golden Go is still faster and still at that +2.
Yeah, and the special attack boost here, I mean, could matter a little bit, increasing the damage of resisted Ice Beam, perhaps, at the Golden Go. But, yeah, I mean, that Pokemon now getting to face down the 2 members of Averi's team it's best against, on top of still having, in various degrees of health, all 3 of its allies left.
Yeah, I think like you're still probably not in any threat of getting knocked out, so going for the Trick Room doesn't feel too bad. I mean, look at that though. That's still a +2, and with Porygon taking that, oh, it's not even gonna maybe get a chance to move here, as the Flare Blitz is just gonna clean it up. So while it would have survived the Make It Rain in order to get that Trick Room up and running, you can see both players kind of just chatting it out. It's going to be a Spore into the Incineroar unless it just knocks itself out, but that is game right there. Toler is going to move on in this series 2-0 to make it to the top 4 at the Knoxville Regional Championships.
Yeah, just what an incredible set by Toler. I thought Averi's adjustment in that second game was actually
so
pretty good. Right? Where, like, it really made Toler work for it, but he played it very calmly.